I'm Lila Hayes, 28 years old, and I never thought my cozy little life in Brooklyn would turn into a full-blown Reddit-worthy nightmare. My husband Carter and I were riding high, our first kid was on the way, and our tiny apartment smelled like pumpkin spice candles and hope. That crisp October evening I was sprawled on the couch, one hand on my growing belly, the other clutching a mug of coffee, when the doorbell buzzed like a warning siren. Carter grinned, expecting a delivery guy with our takeout. Instead, it was Tessa, his little sister, all sharp edges and fake tears, standing there like she just walked out of a soap opera audition. "Lila," she said, voice dripping with venom disguised as pity, "I'm pregnant with Carter's kid." The mug slipped from my hand, shattering on the hardwood floor. Coffee splattered everywhere, soaking my socks, but I barely noticed. My heart slammed against my ribs like it was trying to break free and run. What the hell did she just say? I blinked at her, then at Carter, who'd gone from confused to ghostly pale in half a second. Tessa crossed her arms, smirking like she just dropped the mic at a stand-up gig. Myself? I nearly toppled off the couch. Pregnancy hormones and shock are a brutal combo. "Excuse me." I choked out, my voice sounding foreign like it belonged to someone else. "You're what?" "You heard me," she snapped, flipping her hair like some reality TV diva. "I didn't want to tell you like this, but I can't hide it anymore. It's his." She pointed at Carter, who was still frozen by the door, takeout menu dangling from his limp fingers. The air in the room thickened like Brooklyn's fog had rolled inside and choked out every ounce of sanity. "Carter." I turned to him, my throat tight, begging for him to say something, anything to make this nightmare vanish. He shook his head, slow at first, then frantic. "Lila, I swear I don't know what she's talking about. This is insane." His voice cracked, and for a split second I believed him. But then Tessa laughed, a sharp, grating sound that sliced through my doubt like a rusty blade. "Oh, come on, Carter," she said, rolling her eyes. "Don't act like you don't remember that night. You were wasted, stumbled into my place after some bar crawl. One thing led to another." She shrugged, casual as if she were recounting a grocery run, not blowing up my entire life. I clutched the armrest, nails digging into the fabric. Myself, I couldn't breathe. The idea of Carter, my Carter, the guy who'd spent weeks painting the nursery and kissing my forehead every night, staggering into Tessa's apartment and, no, it didn't add up. But her confidence, that smug tilt of her chin, planted a seed of panic I couldn't shake. "Tessa, get out," Carter growled, finally snapping out of his daze. He stepped toward her, towering over her petite frame, but she didn't flinch. "You're lying and you know it. Why are you doing this?" She tilted her head, eyes glinting with something dark, malice maybe, or just pure glee at the chaos she'd unleashed. "Why? Because it's true, big brother. And Lila deserves to know what kind of guy she's married to." Her gaze flicked to me, and I swear it felt like she punched me straight in the gut. "You're welcome, by the way." I stumbled to my feet, the baby kicking hard like it could sense the storm brewing. This can't be real," I stammered. "Carter, tell me she's full of it. Tell me right now." My voice trembled, and I hated how weak I sounded, how desperate. He grabbed my hands, his palms clammy but firm. "Lila, I promise you I've never touched her. Never. She's my sister, for God's sake." "Then explain this," Tessa barked, pulling out her phone and shoving it in my face. A blurry photo loaded, a time-stamped shot of Carter sprawled on her couch, shirt half unbuttoned, eyes shut. My stomach lurched. It looked like him, same dark hair, same stupid sneakers he refused to throw out. But it was grainy, shadows swallowing half the frame. Could have been anyone. Could have been staged. Right? "See," Tessa said triumphantly. "That was the night. He doesn't remember because he was trashed. But I do. And now, well," she patted her flat stomach, a mock pout on her lips. "Guess we're family in more ways than one." Carter lunged for the phone, but she yanked it back, cackling. "Oh no, you don't get to erase this, buddy. It's happening. Deal with it." I couldn't take it anymore. The room spun, a carousel of betrayal and disbelief, and I bolted for the kitchen, slamming the door behind me. My hand shook as I gripped the counter, coffee stains still dripping from my socks onto the tiles. Myself, I wanted to scream, to hurl something, to wake up from this insanity. Was Carter lying? Was Tessa? Or was I just the idiot who'd missed the signs all along? Through the door I heard him yelling something about proof, and "Stop this," But Tessa's voice cut through loud and clear. You'll see when the baby's born, Lila. You'll see I'm not making this up. And just like that, the bomb she dropped exploded into a million jagged pieces, leaving me gasping in the wreckage. The kitchen door clicked shut behind me, but it didn't block out Tessa's smug parting shot from the living room. You'll see when the baby's born, Lila. My knees buckled and I slid down against the fridge, the cold metal biting into my back. That photo she'd flashed, Carter, half conscious on her couch, burned into my brain like a Polaroid I couldn't unsee. Myself, I was drowning in a mess of questions. Was it real? Was he lying? Or was Tessa just that good at twisting the knife? Carter's voice boomed through the wall, raw and ragged. Tessa, get the hell out. You're sick spinning this garbage out of nowhere. I heard her scoff, heels clicking as she stormed off, leaving the air heavy with her poison. The front door slammed and then it was just us, me, him, and the wreckage she'd left behind. I pressed my palms to my face, trying to steady my breathing, but my chest felt like it was caving in. Lila. Carter's voice softened as he tapped on the kitchen door. Babe, please come out. I need you to hear me. I didn't move. Couldn't. My mind was a battlefield, his desperate pleas clashing with Tessa's venomous certainty. Finally, I yanked the door open, and there he was, eyes wide and frantic, hands hovering like he wanted to pull me close but didn't dare. Tell me it's not true, I whispered, my voice brittle as autumn leaves. Tell me she's making it up. He stepped closer, close enough that I could smell the faint cedar of his cologne, the one I'd picked out for him last Christmas. Lila, I swear on my life, on our kid's life, I didn't touch her. I don't know what that picture is, but it's not what she says. His words tumbled out fast, tripping over each other, and I wanted to believe him so bad it hurt. Then why does she have that photo? I snapped, shoving past him to the living room, my socks squished against the coffee-soaked floor. A bitter reminder of how fast everything had unraveled. You were on her couch, Carter. Drunk or not, how do I know what happened? My hands trembled as I grabbed my phone, half tempted to call her back and demand answers. He raked his fingers through his hair, pacing like a caged animal. I don't know. Maybe I crashed there once months ago after a guy's night. But nothing happened, Lila. Nothing. She's my sister, she's unhinged if she thinks I'd. He cut himself off, jaw clenched tight, like saying it out loud was too disgusting to stomach. I stared at him, searching his face for a crack, a flicker of guilt. But all I saw was panic and something else, something wounded. It twisted my gut even more. Then why's she so sure? I pressed. She's acting like she's got a trump card, Carter. That smirk, she's not bluffing. He opened his mouth to argue, but I couldn't take it anymore. The walls felt like they were closing in, Brooklyn's skyline mocking me through the window with its indifferent glow. I bolted for the bathroom, locking the door before he could follow. The second I was alone, the dam broke, sobs ripped out of me, loud and messy, bouncing off the tiles. Myself, I didn't know who to trust, my husband, the man I'd built this life with, or the nightmare his sister had just unleashed. I slid to the floor, hugging my knees, the baby kicking like it was protesting the chaos. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I ignored it, figuring it was Carter begging from the hall. But it kept going, relentless, insistent. Wiping my eyes, I fished it out and saw Evelyn's name flashing on the screen. Carter's mom. My heart sank like a stone in the East River. Lila. Her voice quavered when I picked up, thin and fragile, like she'd been crying too. Honey, is it true? Tessa just called me hysterical, saying Carter, that he... She couldn't finish and I didn't want her to. My mouth went dry. She's lying, Evelyn, I said, though I wasn't sure who I was convincing, her or myself. She showed up here, claiming she's pregnant with his kid. Carter says it's not true, but... My voice cracked, and I bit my lip hard to stop another flood of tears. There was a long pause, the kind that stretches into eternity. Then she spoke again, barely above a whisper. Carter, how could you do this to us? I froze. Wait, he's not on the line, Evelyn. It's just me. Oh, she murmured, flustered. I just thought. Tessa sounded so sure. She said there's proof. I don't know what to believe. Her words hit me like a slap, and I realized the damage was already spreading, faster than I could contain it. Tessa hadn't just ambushed us. She'd gone straight for the family jugular. Evelyn, I don't know what's real anymore either. I admitted, my voice shaking. But I'm trying to figure it out. I hung up before she could say more, my head pounding. The bathroom felt like a bunker now, shielding me from the war outside, but not for long. Carter knocked again, softer this time. Lila, please. We'll fix this. I'll prove she's lying. But as I sat there, tears drying sticky on my cheeks, Evelyn's trembling question echoed louder than his promises. How could you do this to us? And then it hit me, Tessa wasn't done yet. This was just the opening act. The next morning, I woke up with Evelyn's shaky voice still ringing in my ears. How could you do this to us? It was barely 7 a.m., but sleep had been a lost cause after Tessa's bomb and that gut punch of a phone call. Carter was already up, pacing the living room, his coffee untouched on the counter. Myself, I felt like a live wire, raw, buzzing, ready to snap. We're going to her place, I said, yanking on my boots. Now. I need to see her squirm when we call her bluff. Carter nodded, his jaw tight. Fine. But if she pulls that photo crap again, I'm tearing it up. His anger fueled mine, and before I knew it, we were in the car, slicing through Brooklyn's gray streets. The autumn air was crisp, but it did nothing to cool the fire raging in my chest. Tessa's apartment was a fourth-floor walk-up, the kind of place that reeked of cheap candles and bad decisions. She opened the door in a silk robe, smirking like she'd been expecting us, like we were guests at her twisted little circus. Well, well, she purred, leaning against the frame. The happy couple graces me with their presence. What's it this time, apologies or threats? Cut the act, I spat, shoving past her into the cluttered living room. A half-empty wine bottle sat on the coffee table, mocking her so-called pregnancy. You've got some nerve calling Evelyn last night, feeding her your lies. Show me that damn photo again, let's see how real it is. She sauntered over to her phone, unbothered, and swiped it open with a flourish. There it was. Carter slumped on her ratty sofa, timestamp glowing in the corner, 3 months ago, late July. My stomach twisted, but I forced myself to study it. The angle was off, his face half-shadowed. This could be anyone, I said, voice sharp enough to cut glass. You're banking on blurry garbage to ruin us? Carter loomed behind me, his breath hot on my neck. Tessa, you're crazy. I don't even remember being here, sure as hell not like that. What's your game? His fists clenched, and for a second I thought he might smash something. Myself, I wouldn't have stopped him. Tessa just laughed, a sound like nails on a chalkboard. My game? Oh, big brother, it's no game. It's consequences. You don't get to stumble in here, drunk off your ass, and pretend it didn't happen. She tapped her stomach lightly, eyes glinting with triumph. This says otherwise. Before I could lunge at her, because believe me I wanted to, the buzzer rang. Tessa's smirk widened. Perfect timing, she chirped, buzzing someone up. My pulse spiked. Who now? Seconds later, Evelyn shuffled in, her coat pulled tight like armor, followed by Warren, silent as a statue. The room shrank with their presence, the tension thick enough to choke on. Mom! Carter's voice cracked. What are you doing here? Evelyn's eyes darted between us, red-rimmed and wary. Tessa called me again this morning. Said you'd be here, said I needed to see the truth for myself. She clutched her purse, knuckles white. Carter, I don't want to believe it, but... Her gaze landed on Tessa, who held up the phone like a trophy. See, Mom. Tessa said, voice syrupy sweet. I told you. He can deny it all he wants, but pictures don't lie. They do when you fake them. Carter roared, snatching the phone from her hand. He zoomed in, jabbing at the screen. Look at this, my arm's not even that long. And this shadow, it's all wrong. She staged it, Lila, I swear. I grabbed it from him, my hands trembling. He was right, the proportions were off, the lighting too convenient. But before I could say anything, Evelyn stepped forward, her voice quivering. Carter, why would she fake it? What reason could she possibly have? The question hung there, heavy and unanswered. Myself, I wanted to scream. How did this spiral so fast? Tessa's lies were a web, and we were all tangled in it, thrashing to get free. Warren finally shifted, his deep voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. Enough. Tessa, you're stirring a pot that didn't need stirring. But Carter, he paused, his gray eyes locking onto his son. You better be damn sure you're clean in this. The warning landed like a brick through a window. Carter flinched, and I felt the ground tilt beneath me. Even Warren wasn't fully on our side, not yet. Tessa crossed her arms, smug as ever. Doubt all you want, Dad. Facts are facts. Facts. I hissed, stepping so close I could smell her lavender perfume. You're a liar, Tessa. And I'll prove it. She didn't blink, just tilted her head with that infuriating grin. Go ahead, Lila. Dig all you want. You'll see when the baby's born, and then you'll wish you'd stayed out of it. Her words slithered into my bones, cold and venomous, as the room fell silent. Evelyn's soft gasp was the only sound, but it was Tessa's taunt that echoed loudest, a promise of more chaos to come. Tessa's parting shot, "You'll see when the baby's born," followed us out of her apartment like a ghost, haunting every step back to the car. I sat shotgun, staring blankly at the dashboard while Carter gripped the wheel, his knuckles pale against the leather. Neither of us spoke. The silence was a fragile thread, ready to snap with the wrong word. Myself, I kept replaying Warren's stern warning and Evelyn's wavering trust, cracks in our foundation widening by the minute. By the time we got home, my phone was buzzing like a hive of pissed-off bees. I ignored it at first, tossing it onto the couch as I kicked off my boots. But then Carter's chimed too, a relentless ping-pong of notifications. "What now?" he muttered, fishing his out of his pocket. His face darkened as he scrolled, and he thrust the screen at me. "She's lost it, Lila. Look at this." It was Instagram, Tessa's story, a carousel of cryptic chaos. The first slide, a black background with white text, "Family secrets don't stay buried forever." The next, a blurry shot of Carter's sneakers peeking out from under a blanket, same ones from her proof photo, captioned, "Deadbeat brothers gonna deadbeat." The last one was just her smirking into the camera, sipping wine with a wink. Wine. My blood boiled. She wasn't even pretending to play pregnant anymore. Are you kidding me? I snatched my own phone, and sure enough, my inbox was a war zone. Quinn, our old college buddy, had fired off a string of texts. "Lila, WTF is going on? Tessa's posting like a maniac. Carter cheated? Call me." Another from Miles. "Yo, is this real? Tessa's wilding out there." Even Aunt Blair, who barely knew how to use her phone, sent a shaky voice memo. "Honey, I just saw something online. You okay?" It felt like watching a train wreck in slow motion. Steel screeching, sparks flying, and me stuck on the tracks. "She's turning this into a damn spectacle," I said, my voice trembling with fury. "Brooklyn's gonna be buzzing about us by dinner." Carter paced, tugging at his hair like he could pull the mess out of his skull. "I'll call her, tell her to take it down. This is insane." "Good luck with that," I shot back, scrolling through the comments under Tessa's post. Strangers, people I'd never met, were already piling on. "Men are trash. Poor girl, hope she's okay. Expose him." Each word was a needle pricking deeper into my skin. Myself, I wanted to hurl the phone out the window and let it shatter on the pavement below. Carter dialed her, speaker on, and Tessa picked up on the third ring, her voice syrupy with fake surprise. "Oh hey big bro. What's up? Take that crap off Instagram," he barked. "You're dragging us through the mud for no reason, stop it." She giggled, a sound that made my teeth grind. "No reason? Carter, I'm just sharing my truth. People deserve to know who you really are." Before he could snap back, she hung up, leaving us with dead air and a rising tide of dread. Within hours, the rumor mill was churning full throttle. My barista at the corner cafe gave me a pitying look when I grabbed my latte, muttering, "Hang in there, hon." A coworker from my freelance gig texted, "Heard some stuff, is Carter okay?" Even the bodega guy raised an eyebrow when I bought milk, like he was in on the gossip too. Tessa's little online stunt had turned our quiet life into a citywide soap opera, and we were the unwilling stars. Carter tried to stem the bleeding, texting friends with quick denials. "It's all lies," Tessa's unhinged, but the damage was sprinting ahead of us. I slumped on the couch, staring at the pumpkin candle flickering on the table, its glow now taunting me with memories of simpler days. "How do we fight this?" I whispered, more to myself than him. "She's got everyone hooked on her story." He sank beside me, his hand brushing mine. "We stick together. Prove she's full of it. That's all we can do." His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed the storm inside. Fear, anger, helplessness swirling together. Then my phone lit up again, Blair this time, not Aunt Blair, but our sharp-tongued friend from the old neighborhood. "Lila, you there?" she typed. "Caught Tessa at brunch yesterday, running her mouth. Said she's teaching you a lesson. Something about you thinking you're better than her. She's out for blood, babe. I read it aloud and Carter's head snapped up, eyes narrowing. Teaching you a lesson? What the hell does that mean? My stomach dropped like I'd stepped off a ledge. This wasn't just some random lie, this was personal, calculated. A vendetta with my name on it. Tessa wasn't playing for attention. She was swinging for revenge. And now half of Brooklyn was cheering her on. Blair's text, teaching you a lesson, lit a match under me. I'd spent the night tossing on the couch, Carter snoring fitfully in the bedroom, while Tessa's vendetta played on a loop in my head. By morning, the fog of hurt had burned off, replaced by a simmering resolve. Myself, I was done being her punching bag, Brooklyn's rumor mill be damned. Carter, I said, barging into the room as he rubbed sleep from his eyes. I'm not waiting for her next move. We're digging up the truth today. He sat up, blinking. What's the plan? Start with her lie, I replied, already pulling on a sweater. If she's pregnant, there's proof, doctor visits, ultrasounds, something. Let's see how deep this rabbit hole goes. My voice was steady, but inside I was a coiled spring, ready to unravel at the first snag. First stop, Miles. He's the nosy type, always knows who's doing what in our circle. I texted him to meet us at the diner on Flatbush, and he slid into the booth 10 minutes later, nursing a black coffee. So, he said, eyeing us over the rim, Tessa's got the whole borough in a tizzy. What do you need? Dirt, I said bluntly. She claims she's carrying Carter's kid. You've seen her lately, any sign of it? Miles leaned back, a slow grin spreading. Funny you ask. Saw her at a rooftop party last weekend. Girl was downing tequila shots like it was her job. No bump, no waddle, nothing. And trust me, I'd noticed she was peacocking for attention all night. My pulse quickened, a spark of hope flickering to life. Tequila? While pregnant? I glanced at Carter, whose jaw tightened. That's not just reckless, that's a red flag. Exactly, Miles said, sipping his coffee. And I've got buddies at her usual spots, bars, clubs. No one's seen her skipping drinks or acting expectant. She's living like it's still summer 2022. Carter leaned forward, voice low. What about doctors? If she's pulling this stunt, she'd need some medical backup, right? Miles shrugged. Haven't heard a peep about appointments. But I can ask around discreetly. Do it, I said, my mind racing. Myself, I felt the gears shifting, doubt turning into a weapon I could wield. If she's got no trail, her story's toast. Back home, I grabbed my laptop, fueled by Miles's intel and a double espresso. Carter hovered restless as I scoured Tessa's socials for cracks. She'd been sloppy, those Instagram posts flaunting wine, a TikTok of her dancing at some warehouse rave last month, all time-stamped after her big announcement. No pregnant woman I knew partied that hard. But I needed more, something concrete to shove in her face. Then I called her. Not to beg or yell, but to trap her. She picked up, voice dripping with mock cheer. Lila, miss me already? Cut the crap, I said, keeping it cool. When's your next ultrasound? I'll come with moral support, you know. My tone was syrupy, baiting her. A beat of silence. Then, soon. Next week, maybe? I'd have to check. She fumbled, her usual swagger faltering. Really? I pressed, leaning into it. You don't remember? What was the last one, date and all? I mean, you're so sure about this baby. I don't have my calendar handy, she stammered. It was a while back. Look, I'm busy. Too busy to know your own appointments? I cut in, sharp and unrelenting. That's weird, Tessa. Real weird. She hung up, but not before I heard the panic in her breath. Myself, I lapsed into silence, stunned at how easily she'd tripped. Then the anger surged, hot and fierce, like a furnace roaring to life. She wasn't just lying, she was bad at it, and I was mad enough to fight now. Carter watched me, eyes wide. You okay? No, I said, slamming the laptop shut. But I'm on to her. She's got nothing real, no dates, no proof. We're tearing this apart. That's when I went back to her TikTok, digging deeper. A post from 2 weeks ago caught my eye. A grainy clip of her holding up an ultrasound photo, captioned, Baby Brooks coming soon. My heart sank for a split second until I paused it. The image was too crisp, too perfect, like it belonged in a textbook. On a hunch, I reverse searched it online. Bingo! It popped up on a stock photo site, Watermarked and all, some random ultrasound she'd swiped off Google. My jaw dropped, a laugh bubbling up, wild and bitter. Carter, look at this. She's using clip art for her pregnancy. He stared at the screen, then at me, disbelief morphing into fury. She's unhinged. This is next level. Yeah, I said, my voice hardening. And I'm not letting her squirm out of it. The pieces were falling into place, but one question gnawed at me. If she'd faked this much, what else was she hiding? The ultrasound stock photo was my golden ticket, and I wasn't wasting it. After unearthing Tessa's sham from that TikTok clip, I spent the night plotting, not out of spite, but survival. Myself, I was a hunter now, tracking every loose thread she'd left dangling. Carter, I said over breakfast, my coffee steaming between us, we're calling a family powwow. Your parents, Tessa, us. Tonight. I'm ending this circus. He nodded, eyes glinting with something fierce. I'll get them there. Mom's already shaky, Dad'll come if she does. His voice was steady, but I caught the tremor beneath it, hope laced with dread. By evening, we'd commandeered Evelyn and Warren's brownstone in Bed-Stuy. The kind of place that smelled like old wood and older secrets. I stood in their living room, laptop open on the coffee table, the fake ultrasound glowing on the screen like a neon sign screaming fraud. Carter flanked me, arms crossed, while Evelyn perched on the couch, wringing her hands. Warren loomed by the fireplace, his silence a heavy anchor in the room. Tessa strutted in last, late as always, her heels clicking like a countdown. What's this, an intervention? She quipped, tossing her bag onto an armchair. You all look so serious, lighten up. Sit down, I said, my tone flat but edged with steel. She raised an eyebrow but complied, slouching with that trademark smirk. Myself, I felt a surge of adrenaline. This was my shot, and I wasn't missing. We're here because of you, Tessa. Your lies. Your games. It stops now. Her smirk faltered just for a second. Games? Lila, you're obsessed. Maybe focus on your own life instead of mine. Oh, I've been focused. I shot back, turning the laptop toward her. Focused enough to find this. I clicked play on the TikTok, her smug face filling the screen as she waved that ultrasound. Then I flipped to the stock photo site, the identical image staring back at us. Care to explain why your baby is a Google download? The room went still, like the air had been sucked out with a vacuum. Evelyn gasped, a tiny sound that cut through the quiet. Tessa's eyes darted to the screen, then back to me, her composure cracking like thin ice. That's not what it looks like, she stammered, sitting up straighter. You're twisting it. Twisting it. Carter snapped, stepping forward. It's the same damn picture, Tessa. You didn't even try to hide it. She scrambled, hands fluttering like trapped birds. Okay, fine, maybe that one's not real. But I was pregnant. I miscarried, alright? All this stress, Lila hounding me, it's her fault it's gone. Her voice pitched higher, desperate, and she pointed at me like I'd wielded some invisible curse. I froze, her accusation landing like a sucker punch. Miscarried? The room tilted, my breath catching as I processed the audacity. But then Warren stirred, his voice rumbling low and deliberate. Which doctor confirmed it, Tessa? She blinked, mouth opening and closing like a fish on dry land. What? You heard me, he said, stepping closer, his shadow stretching across the rug. A miscarriage, that's medical. Who saw you? Where's the paperwork? His tone was calm, but it carried the weight of a judge's gavel demanding truth. Tessa's face flushed, her fingers twisting in her lap. I don't have it with me. It was some clinic. Downtown. I don't remember the name. You don't remember? I said, finding my voice again, sharp and unforgiving. You can't name a single doctor, a single date? You expect us to buy that? Evelyn's head snapped toward her daughter, eyes narrowing. Tessa, answer him. Now. The silence stretched, taut and unbearable. Tessa's bravado melted, her shoulders slumping as the weight of her own lies pressed down. Okay, fine, she burst out, voice cracking. There was no baby. I made it up. Happy now. The confession hit like a thunderclap, reverberating through the room. Myself, I felt the floor sway beneath me. Dizzy, triumphant, exhausted all at once. Dindium la, I felt the room spin, but the truth was out. I thought, gripping Carter's arm to steady myself. He squeezed back, his relief palpable, but his eyes stayed locked on Tessa, burning with betrayal. You made it up, he growled. You tore our lives apart for what? She didn't answer, just stared at the floor, lips pressed tight. Evelyn stood, trembling, and crossed to her daughter. Tessa, she said, voice breaking. How could you do this? The question hung there, soft but piercing, a mother's heartbreak laid bare. Tessa flinched but didn't look up, her silence louder than any excuse. Warren turned away, shaking his head, while I stood there, reeling from the victory and the cost. We'd won this round, but Evelyn's words echoed in my skull, a quiet warning that the fallout was just beginning. Evelyn's trembling "How could you do this?" lingered like smoke after a fire, curling through my thoughts as Carter and I left the brownstone. The drive home was a blur, streetlights streaking past, my hands clenched in my lap. We'd ripped Tessa's mask off, but the victory felt hollow, tainted by the raw hurt in Evelyn's eyes. Myself, I wondered if exposing her was enough, or if she'd claw back harder now that her lie was ash. The answer came fast. By morning, my phone was a battlefield. Notifications piled up like debris after a storm, dozens, then hundreds from apps I barely used. Carter peeked over my shoulder as I opened TikTok, and there she was. Tessa staring into the camera with crocodile tears, her voice quivering just enough to sell it. I trusted my family, she said, but Lila turned them against me. She's the real monster here, breaking us apart over her jealousy. My jaw hit the floor. Jealousy, I croaked, scrolling to the caption. When your SL ruins everything. #family betrayal. The video had thousands of likes already, comments flooding in. She's awful. Stay strong, Tessa. Each one a dagger twisting deeper. She's flipping it, Carter said, his voice tight with disbelief. Making you the villain after all that? He grabbed his own phone, but Reddit was worse. A post on r/m_asshole screamed, "I'd for calling out my SL who sabotaged my pregnancy announcement?" Tessa's sob story painted me as a raging harpy who'd hounded her into a fake miscarriage. Strangers bought it hook, line, and sinker. My inbox overflowed with venom. You're disgusting. Leave her alone. Control freak. It was like the whole internet had collapsed on my head, a digital avalanche burying me alive. Myself, I wanted to crawl under the covers and disappear, but the baby kicked, a sharp reminder I couldn't fold. Carter, I said, voice shaking. They think I'm the bad guy. How do we fix this? He pulled me close, his arms a makeshift shield. We fight back together. She's desperate, Lila. This is her flailing. His words were firm, but the exhaustion in his eyes mirrored mine. We drafted a response, a short, clipped post on his Instagram. Tessa's lying. She faked a pregnancy to hurt us. We've got proof. He hit send, but the replies rolled in fast, half supportive, half accusing us of gaslighting her. The day dragged on, a relentless siege. I muted my phone, but the buzz of notifications seeped through like a leaking pipe. Carter fielded calls from friends, Quinn promising to vouch for us, Miles cursing Tessa's name, but the tide of hate kept rising. By afternoon, I was a husk, sprawled on the couch with my hands over my belly, the weight of it all pressing me flat. I can't keep up, I whispered. She's winning, Carter. He knelt beside me, brushing hair from my face. She's not. She's loud, but we've got the truth. Hold on, okay. His touch steadied me, but my nerves were frayed to threads, snapping with every new ping. Then, just as dusk painted Brooklyn orange, Tessa dropped her next bomb. A new TikTok popped up, this time a tearful apology. I'm sorry for the mess, she sniffled, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. I just wanted to protect my family, but Lila's so good at ruining lives, I got lost in it. She paused, then smirked, barely there, but I caught it. Guess some people thrive on chaos. The screen went black, and I nearly threw my phone across the room. An apology? I hissed. That's a slap with a smile, she's mocking us. The comments exploded again. Lila's a bully. Tessa's too nice for this, and my chest tightened, a vice squeezing out the last of my air. Carter rewatched it, his face darkening. She's doubling down. Thinks she can twist this into pity. He stood, pacing like a caged wolf. We need to hit harder. Show everyone that ultrasound scam. But I couldn't move. The room spun, exhaustion crashing over me like a rogue wave. Myself, I was drowning, strong 1 minute, crumbling the next. Tessa's apology wasn't surrender. It was a taunt, a promise she'd keep swinging. And with the internet as her army, I wasn't sure we'd outlast her. Tessa's smirking "Lila's so good at ruining lives" looped in my head all night, a venomous earworm I couldn't shake. I barely slept, curled on the couch with my phone dark, the weight of her online army pressing me into the cushions. Carter hovered nearby, restless, muttering about hitting harder, but I was too drained to plan until morning broke and the tide started shifting. It began with a ping from the family group chat, usually a graveyard of birthday wishes and bad memes. Quinn's name popped up first, bold and unapologetic. "Tessa, you're full of it. I saw you chugging beers at that bar last month, pregnant my ass." My eyes widened, a jolt of energy sparking through me. Before I could type, Blair chimed in. "Yeah, and that miscarriage sob story? Save it. You were bragging about punking Lila at brunch. Own it, coward." Carter leaned over my shoulder, a grin tugging at his lips. "They're going in hard." The chat lit up, Miles tossing in, "She's been clubbing nonstop, no baby bump in sight." And even Aunt Blair adding, "I've known Tessa since diapers. She's always been a storyteller." Each message was a brick dismantling her facade, and myself, I felt a flicker of hope ignite, like a match struck in a pitch-black room. Tessa fired back, frantic. "You're all liars. Lila's got you brainwashed." But the momentum was ours now. Quinn dropped a photo, time-stamped, grainy but clear. Tessa slamming shots at a rooftop bar, her laugh frozen mid-cackle. "Explain this, sis," he typed. She didn't reply. The chat went quiet, her silence louder than any defense. By noon the doorbell buzzed, snapping me out of my daze. I shuffled over expecting a delivery, but it was Evelyn, clutching a bouquet of wilting daisies, her face etched with guilt. "Lila," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "I'm so sorry. I should have trusted you, both of you." She thrust the flowers at me, hands trembling. I let her pull me in. I was wrong. I took them, the petals brushing my fingers like a fragile truce. "Evelyn, it's okay." I lied, though my throat tightened. She fooled a lot of people. Carter appeared behind me, nodding stiffly. "Mom, you're here now. That's what counts." She stepped inside, eyes darting around like she expected Tessa to leap out. "Warren's done with her too," she said, settling onto the couch. "He didn't say much, just that he's not bailing her out anymore. No money, no excuses. But," she trailed off, twisting her rings, "he's still her father. He won't cut her off completely." Carter snorted. "Figures. Dad's always been soft on her." "Maybe," Evelyn murmured. "But he's furious. Called her a disgrace last night. First time I've heard him raise his voice in years." The words sank in, a bittersweet bomb. Warren pulling back was a win, but that lingering tie gnawed at me, proof Tessa still had roots to cling to. Myself, I clutched the daisies tighter, their faint scent grounding me. "The Roy," I felt hope flicker back to life. I thought, glancing at Carter. We weren't alone anymore. The cavalry had arrived. Later that afternoon, the group chat flared up again, this time a cousin I hadn't seen since Thanksgiving, Riley. His message was a bombshell. "Y'all, this ain't Tessa's first rodeo. Few years back, she told everyone Aunt Meg stole her rent money. Full meltdown, tears and all. Turned out she'd spent it on a Vegas trip. Meg didn't speak to her for a year." I read it aloud, my jaw dropping. "She's done this before?" Carter's eyes narrowed, a storm brewing behind them. "Vegas? That's why Meg stopped coming to holidays. Tessa played us all again." The revelation hit like a gust of cold wind, sharp and clarifying. Tessa wasn't just a liar, she was a repeat offender. A con artist with a playbook. Quinn jumped in. "Knew she was shady, but damn serial level." Blair added, "Lila, you're her latest target. Watch your back." I set the phone down, my hands steady for the first time in days. The pieces clicked. Her vendetta wasn't random. It was a pattern, a twisted game she perfected. Evelyn reached for my arm, her touch tentative. "I didn't know," she said softly. "I should have seen it." "No one did," I replied, meeting her gaze. "But we do now." The room settled into a fragile calm, the weight lifting just enough to breathe. Our allies had spoken, Tessa's mask was slipping, and yet Riley's story echoed in my skull, a warning note in the quiet. If she'd pulled this before, what was stopping her from rewriting the script? Riley's bombshell about Tessa's Vegas lie was the final straw, a jagged shard of clarity slicing through the haze. I woke up the next morning with his words branded in my mind. She'd done this before, and we'd been her latest pawns. Myself, I was finished playing her chessboard. "Carter," I said, slamming my mug down on the kitchen counter. "We're drawing the line. Today. No more chances, no more chaos." He looked up from his phone, mid-scroll through the group chat's aftermath. "You mean cut her off? For good?" His voice held a mix of relief and hesitation, but his eyes told me he was already there. "Damn right," I said, pulling my laptop over. "Email everyone. They need to know where we stand." My fingers flew across the keys, the words pouring out like a dam breaking. "To the family, Tessa's lies have gone too far. We've got proof she faked everything, pregnancy, miscarriage, all of it. We're done. No contact, no excuses. If you're with us, respect that. If not, that's your call." I hit send, the whoosh of it a quiet rebellion against her reign. Carter read it over my shoulder, nodding slowly. Short and sharp. "Good." He added his own line. "She's out of our lives. Period." And forwarded it to his parents, Quinn, Blair, the whole crew. The replies trickled in fast. Quinn with a hell yes, Miles with about time, Evelyn with a shaky "I understand." Warren didn't respond, his silence a wall we'd expected but still stung. For a moment it felt like we'd reclaimed the reins, until the doorbell shrieked that afternoon. I peeked through the peephole and there she was. Tessa, hair mussed, eyes puffy, a shadow of her usual swagger. My stomach twisted, but not with pity, with disgust. "What do you want?" I called through the door, keeping it locked. "Lila, please," she said, voice cracking like she'd rehearsed it. "I messed up big time. I'm sorry. Can we talk? Just us." Her hands pressed against the frame, a plea in her posture, but I saw the flicker in her eyes, calculating even now. "No," I said, cold and final, like ice snapping underfoot. "You don't get to waltz in here with crocodile tears after everything. We're done, Tessa." I swung the door open just enough to meet her gaze, letting her see the steel in mine. "Go home." Her mask slipped, a flash of fury breaking through. "You're throwing me away? After all I've been through? All you've been through?" I laughed, bitter and hollow. "You built this mess. Live in it." I slammed the door, the thud echoing through the apartment like a gavel's fall. She pounded twice, a muffled "Lila, wait!" seeping through, but I turned away, heart racing but resolute. Carter was there, arms open, and I sank into him. "You okay?" he murmured, his breath warm against my hair. "Yeah," I said, exhaling a weight I hadn't named. I finally decided no more toxic games. "She's out." We stood there, a united front, as her footsteps faded down the hall. That night we went nuclear, blocked her on every platform. Phone, Instagram, TikTok, even the dusty LinkedIn she barely used. Each tap was a brick in the wall we were building, a fortress against her reach. The quiet that followed was eerie but sweet, like the calm after a hurricane's roar. Myself, I felt lighter, unburdened, until my phone buzzed with a new email. No sender name, just a string of random numbers. "This isn't over, just wait." The words slithered across the screen, a chill racing up my spine. I showed Carter, his jaw tightening as he read it. "Her?" he asked, voice low. "Who else?" I said, though my certainty wavered. The anonymity was new, sneakier, darker than her usual bravado. My hands shook as I deleted it, but the message lingered, a splinter under my skin. We'd shut her out, but Tessa wasn't vanishing, she was lurking. And that promise of just wait hung over us like a storm cloud rolling in slow. That cryptic email, "This isn't over, just wait," hovered over us like a vulture circling prey. But as the weeks stretched into months, Tessa's shadow didn't strike. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, another TikTok tirade, a midnight doorstep plea. But the silence held, brittle but unbroken. Myself, I clung to that quiet, pouring my energy into the life growing inside me, determined to outrun her ghost. Fast forward to January, and the storm finally gave way to light. Our daughter, Ellie, arrived on a snowy Brooklyn morning, her tiny wails slicing through the hospital room like a victory cry. Carter held her first, tears streaking his face as he whispered, "She's perfect, Lila." I reached for her, my hands trembling, not from fear this time, but from a joy so fierce it burned. She was ours, a fragile miracle carved out of the chaos Tessa had sown. The days blurred into a haze of diapers and midnight feedings, but they were ours to claim. Evelyn dropped by with casseroles and soft apologies woven into every visit, her guilt fading with each coup Ellie offered. Warren came too, gruff as ever, but he'd linger by the crib, a rare softness in his eyes. "You're doing all right," he'd mutter, and from him that was gold. The family stitched itself back together, slowly and perfectly, threads pulled tight by time and distance from Tessa's wreckage. She'd vanished. No calls, no posts, no sightings. Quinn joked she'd crawled back under her rock, while Blair swore she'd spotted her at a dive bar once, alone and subdued. Myself, I didn't care where she'd gone, only that she stayed there. Carter and I made a pact one night, Ellie dozing between us on the couch. "No one gets in again," he said, his voice a low vow. "Not her, not anyone. This," he gestured to us, to the sleepy bundle of our daughter, "this is ours to protect." "Sworn," I replied, sealing it with a kiss. The words felt like armor, forged in the fire of everything we'd endured. We'd drawn our line in the sand, and for once it held firm, no cracks, no breaches. The apartment, once a battlefield of doubt, became a sanctuary, its walls echoing with Ellie's gurgles instead of Tessa's venom. But peace doesn't erase scars. I'd catch myself glancing at my phone, half expecting a new anonymous jab, that just wait promise itching at the back of my mind. Carter noticed too. He'd tighten his grip on my hand during quiet moments, a silent check-in. "Drama chua han het," I thought one evening, rocking Ellie a snow tapped the window. "But we won, and that's enough." The thought settled me, a balm over wounds still tender but healing. Weeks later, curiosity tugged me back to Reddit. I'd avoided it since Tessa's smear campaign, but with Ellie napping and Carter at the store, I scrolled r/Brooklyn drama. A guilty itch I couldn't scratch. A post caught my eye, anonymous, fresh. "Update that sister-in-law saga? Baby's here, parents are solid, Psycho Azel's gone quiet. Guess the truth won out." Comments piled up. "Good riddance." Knew she was full of it, and I smiled, a small private triumph. Then I saw it, a pinned reply from a throwaway account. "Tessa's gone quiet. For now." My breath hitched, the words a cold splash against the warmth I'd built. I stared at the screen, the ellipsis pulsing like a heartbeat. For now. It wasn't a threat, not exactly, but it carried her scent, sly, lingering, a whisper of unfinished business. I deleted the app, shoving the phone away, but the echo stayed, a faint ripple in our hard-won calm. Carter came home, arms full of groceries, and found me by the window, Ellie stirring in her bassinet. "You good?" he asked, setting the bags down. "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "Just thinking." I didn't mention the post, didn't need to. We'd faced her down once. We could do it again if that "for now" ever turned into now. For this moment though, it was just us three against the world, standing tall on the ashes of her games.